Chapter 1125. The woman patted Huobiu's back and asked, "What happened? Didn't I tell you not to cause any trouble in the Tianqian Mountains, to train properly, and to go to the starry school when the time comes?" Huobiu gritted her teeth and said, "It's all that fool and that bitch's fault. They lured the sky-shaking bear over. Sob, 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 sister, you must avenge us. I'm going to wipe out the entire Xiaoyao school." The cold-looking woman frowned. The carefree sect. I've never heard of it. As he spoke, a few figures stumbled out of the forest. He knelt down in front of the elegant woman in a sorry state and shouted in panic, "Greetings. Greetings, senior sister." Before the cold woman could say anything, Huobiu was already furious. She pointed at those people and cursed, "You bunch of cowards who are afraid of death. How dare you come back? Big sister, these bastards. When the heaven-shaking bear attacked me, they ignored my safety and ran away. Sister, you must not let them off." The people kneeling on the ground were terrified, kowtowing and begging for mercy. The cold-eyed lady looked at them coldly and said sternly, "Go back to the Silver Plume Palace to receive your punishment. If there is a next time, I will not let you off easily. Eldest senior sister, don't. We still have to participate in the Starry School's assessment." Huobiu sneered and said, "You abandoned me at the critical moment, and now you still want to go to the Starry School for the assessment? Dream on. Get lost to the Silver Feather Palace immediately to receive your punishment. Otherwise, I will let my sister cripple all of your cultivations and chase you out of the Silver Feather Palace." The people kneeling on the ground didn't dare to say anything. It was clearly Huobiu who provoked the sky-shaking bear and killed its cub. It was natural for her to be hunted by the sky-shaking bear. Why should they die under the paws of the sky-shaking bear for Huobiu? However, when he thought of great senior sister's status in the Silver Feather Palace, and how much she doted on her sister, Huobiu, everyone could only leave unwillingly. The cool lady looked at Bai Yang, who had lost an arm. What happened to him? Huobiu glanced at Bai Yang, who was covered in blood, and her eyes flashed. "Humph, he's also a coward who's afraid of death. When he tried to escape, the sky-shaking bear bit off his arm." The cold and elegant lady's eyes turned cold when she heard that. Such a cowardly and incompetent person, and he even lost an arm. Such a person is no longer of any use to the Silver Plume Palace. Send him back to the Bai clan directly. Huobiu was overjoyed. She hugged the woman's arm and smiled. "Sister, I know you love me the most." The cold woman tapped Huobiu's forehead and was about to speak. Suddenly, a golden-red talisman appeared in front of her. The talisman burned automatically, and the figure of an elegant middle-aged man appeared. However, this man's figure was translucent. Huobiu immediately revealed a timid expression when she saw the middle-aged man. She subconsciously took a step back and said softly, "Father." However, the middle-aged man did not even look at Huobiu. His deep gaze landed on the cold lady. "Xiangrong, don't participate in the Starry School's examination. Return to the headquarters of the Silver Feather Palace within 3 days." Hua Xiangrong frowned when she heard that. "Father, I've already reported to you that I'm going to participate in the Starry School's examination." Chapter 1126. I got the news that the Inu Palace will soon win a distinguished guest whose identity is beyond your imagination. What is the Starry School? Anyone in the Inu Palace, as long as they can get close to this distinguished guest, they will have a bright future and even have the possibility to ascend to the cultivation continent. The middle-aged man took a deep breath, as if trying to calm himself down. "Xiangrong, you are the most outstanding woman in the Inu Palace and the most outstanding genius in the younger generation. Others may not have the chance, but if you can get close to the distinguished guest, he might treat you differently. At that time, our Hua clan will naturally be able to ascend to heaven. The middle-aged man became more and more excited as he spoke, but Hua Xiangrong's face became more and more gloomy. Finally, she could not help but interrupt the middle-aged man. "Father, don't say any more. No matter how distinguished the person is, I don't want to get close to him. If you want to ascend to heaven, go find someone else. I will definitely go to the starry school." After saying that, she reached out and pinched the burning talisman in the sky. The middle-aged man also disappeared without a trace. Seeing the middle-aged man disappear, Hua Biue immediately took a deep breath. "Sister, a man who can be praised by father must be of noble descent and extremely precious. You really don't want to go back and have a look. Even if you go to the starry school, it does not mean that you can marry such a good man." Hua Xiangrong frowned, then smiled proudly. "So what if he is of noble descent? Isn't he just a boring man? I, Hua Xiangrong, can also do what those men can do. Why should I rely on them? Only those who are weak, incompetent, and shameless women who are willing to sell their bodies will always think about relying on men, and even be a plaything." Hua Biue's face twisted. She could not even force a smile. Although Hua Xiangrong did not mean that, she always felt that Hua Xiangrong was talking about her. If she was as outstanding as Hua Xiangrong. If her father encountered such a good thing, he would not only think of Hua Xiangrong, but not her daughter. If she could get close to the distinguished guest, she would not pretend to be noble like Hua Xiangrong. She, Hua Biue, would definitely make good use of this opportunity and soar to the top. Hua Biue clenched her fists. When she heard that Hua Xiangrong asked her to get on the flying sword, she immediately showed a sweet smile that belonged to a younger sister. Because they did not have any flying treasures, Mu Yan and the others had to travel through the Sky Jade Mountains for 9 days and then fly for another 3 days before they finally arrived at the Starry School. The Starry School was located in the southeast of the Azure Blue World. To the north, it was adjacent to the Danyang mountain range. The area it occupied was so large that one could not even see the end of it from the top of the mountain. The registration for the Starry School was set up at the foot of the Danyang mountain range. "This is the Starry School," Luo Yu exclaimed. "It's really grand and luxurious. Compared to this place, the Xiaoyao Sect's base couldn't even compare to a latrine. Pfft! Where did this country bumpkin come from?" A cultivator beside him sneered. Luo Yu was not annoyed at all. Instead, she blinked her big eyes and looked over. "Senior brother, why are you laughing? Did I say something wrong?" This person originally wanted to ridicule him without restraint. Chapter 11:27. Behind the young man were a handsome man and a beautiful woman, especially the two women. They were so beautiful that he could not help but stare. He could not help but retract his mocking attitude. Instead, he stuttered, This is actually not the Starry School. It's just a side yard that the Starry School uses to recruit new students every 4 years. The real Starry School is much bigger than this place. Thank you for telling us." Luo Yu smiled obediently. "May I ask where the registration is?" The person became more and more nervous. He pointed in a direction with a red face. I'll bring you there." Along the way, Mu Yan found out that the senior was called Yang Fan. He was the son of a famous clan in the Azure Sky realm. He had just turned 25 this year, but was already in the early stage of inedia. They were quickly led to the registration area. Yang Fan smiled. "This is the registration area for the Starry School's outer house. As long as you pay enough crystals, you can participate in the assessment." However, when Luo Yu saw it, she was shocked. The assessment fee is 3 pieces of medium-grade crystal stones, and the first year's tuition fee is 50 pieces of medium-grade crystal stones. This was fucking robbery. Yun Ruhan also frowned. I remember that the recruitment notice said that the assessment fee is only 1 mid-grade crystal. Yang Fan shook his head. Your Xiaoyao sect must be in a very remote place. You probably don't know the Starry School's recruitment rules, right? A mid-grade crystal referred to the assessment of the inner school. However, the requirements for the assessment of the inner school of the Starry School were extremely high. Usually, this crystal would be wasted. Although the outer house requires a lot of crystals, the chances of entering the Starry School are very high. I think you should choose. Before Yang Fan could finish, the 7 of them had already turned around and walked to the registration area without hesitation. What a joke. That was 3 mid-grade crystals and 50 mid-grade crystals for a year's tuition fee. The Xiaoyao sect was afraid of that. Although they had the world's #1 shop to earn money, the money did not come from Defying. How could they waste it here? The 7 of you want to apply for the Starry School's inner house. The elder in charge of registration looked at the 7 of them and shook his head. His eyes were full of disdain. No, you are not qualified. Why? Luo Yu was anxious. The elder glanced at Yun Ruhan. Don't you know that the Starry School only accepts young talents below the age of 25 who have reached the Enidia realm? Ah. They only recruit those under 25 years old. They didn't know about this rule at all. Oh no, then isn't eldest senior brother overage? Alas, although the examination fee for the outer court is very high, the 7 of us have agreed to advance and retreat together, so we can only go to the outer court. The people of the Xiaoyao sect all frowned and felt sorry for the crystals that were about to fly away. The veins on Yun Ruhan's forehead throbbed. After a long while, she said with difficulty, I've only just turned 25. You must be joking. Mayan is the first to cry out, eldest brother, you're only 25 years old. I thought you're in your 30s. Luo Yu nodded her head profusely. Big brother, don't lie just so that we can enter the inner sect of Starry School. You should know that the Starry School's examinations have special spiritual stones for testing. You will be able to fool this elder with your lies. Chapter 11:28. The veins on Yun Ruhan's forehead twitched, and the corner of his mouth twitched. I'm not lying, I'm really only 25 years old. However, everyone revealed an expression of disbelief. Even with Yun Ruhan's good temper, he couldn't remain calm at this time. He took a deep breath, took a step forward, and pressed his hand on the bone aptitude testing spirit stone. As soon as his hand touched it, the spirit stone immediately lit up with a burst of white light. The white-bearded old man tugged at his beard. How could it be? You really met the assessment requirements. The people of the Xiaoyao sect were even more shocked than the white-bearded old man. Eldest senior brother, you're really only 25 years old. This bone aptitude testing spirit stone wouldn't be broken, right? Heavens, I always thought eldest senior brother was at least 28 or 29 years old. Hey, I always thought eldest senior brother was already 30 years old. Yun Ruhan's face turned green and white, and he gritted his teeth. Excuse me, can I register now? The white-bearded old man threw the beard in his hand to the side. Sorry, this old man really couldn't see your bone aptitude. This is your assessment jade card, please take it. Oh, old senior, how can this blame you? Lang Yuma blabbered, you see, we've lived with him for so many years, yet we couldn't see it. He, this is all our eldest senior brother's fault for being too anxious. Old senior, you really don't have to blame yourself. Lang Yuma. Lon Luoyu. Yun Ruhan finally couldn't bear it. In a moment, run back and forth to Danyang Mountain Range 50 times. Don't. Eldest senior brother, we know we're wrong. Eldest senior brother, we won't say you're old anymore. You see, this is all your fault for keeping a short beard all day, making you look old. If you shave off your beard, you'll be a handsome young talent again. Yun Ruhan faintly smiled, 100 times. By the time Luoyu and Leng Yumo returned from running 100 times to Danyang mountain range, the sky was already dark. Today's enrollment was also over. The real assessment would begin tomorrow. Mu Yan and Ling Yuxing were currently pestering Yun Ruhan, and they were shaving the short beard off their face. Sure enough, the seemingly old and steady senior brother suddenly turned into a dashing and extraordinarily handsome young man. Luoyu panted heavily as she continued to court death. Eldest senior brother, it would have been great if you had been like this earlier. You're so handsome, so many young ladies would have thrown themselves at you. That way, no one would mistake you for being 30 years old. Yun Ruhan glanced at him and said unhurriedly, Little Seven, it seems like you still have energy to spare for 100 rounds today. Tomorrow, let's change it to 150 rounds. Don't, eldest senior brother, spare me. Laughing and joking, they soon arrived at the eastern courtyard. This was a temporary lodging place for cultivators participating in the assessment. Those who participated in the inner court exam lived in the east, while those who participated in the outer court exam lived in the west. However, due to the large number of cultivators participating in the examination and the limited number of rooms in the courtyard, many cultivators chose to meditate outside. Mu Yan is wondering if she should set up a tent like she did in Windlass Square last time. She wanted to make a trip to Tingguang ruins, and it would be inconvenient to rest outside. Chapter 1129. Where is it? Let me have a look. Everyone entered the east courtyard to take a look. Sure enough, there was an extremely large and spacious room on the innermost second floor. There was even star grass in the room that could gather spiritual energy, so the whole room made people feel refreshed and comfortable. Ling Yuma said excitedly, Eldest senior brother, quickly, hang up your identity medallion to prevent others from stealing it. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect our luck to be so good. You can't go into this room. At this moment, Yang Fan's voice was heard hurriedly, that is a room exclusive to the Silver Plume Palace. If anyone were to enter, they would be in big trouble. Exclusive room? Yun Ruhan asked curiously. But when we received our identity badges, the steward told us that we could hang our identity badges and rest in any empty room. Yang Fan repeatedly shook his head, that's why I said that you came from a remote place and don't know anything. This had long been the custom of every starry school examination. The luxurious rooms on the second floor were all reserved for the disciples of the big clans and clans. Even if there was no nameplate, others could not occupy it at will. And this room in the Silver Feather Palace is the biggest and most luxurious room in the entire East Courtyard. What if it's occupied? Chu Moli asked with a light smile. Isn't that obvious? Yang Fan sighed. In the past, there were also people who were blind and wanted to snatch the Silver Plume Palace's room. In the end, the final outcome was not only that they could not participate in that year's assessment, but their cultivation base was also mostly crippled. Don't do anything stupid. Yun Ruhan said gratefully, many thanks for senior brother Yang's reminder. When Yang Fan heard this, he thought that they understood the importance of this matter and couldn't help but feel relieved. Who knew that in the next moment, Ling Yuma had already scratched her nameplate, eldest senior brother, you're too slow. What if someone else takes it? Hang mine first. Yang Fan's eyes widened. Yun Ruhan also had a helpless expression. After Ling Yuma hung up the nameplate, the rest of them swaggered in. After Luo Yu went in, she even popped her head out and gave a cute smile. Eldest senior brother, come in quickly. By the way, Senior Brother Yang, do you have a place to stay tonight? Do you want to squeeze in with us? Young Fan stammered, You didn't hear me. This is the Silver Plume Palace's room. Aren't you afraid of the Silver Plume Palace's revenge? Luo Yu stuck out her tongue. Silver Feather Palace, what is that? Why does it sound familiar? No matter how big the world is, it's not as important as eating and sleeping. Young Fan stared at the door that was slowly closing in front of him. He stood there in a daze for a long time. Another bunch of reckless fools. When the people from the Silver Feather Palace come, they will be dead for sure. Let's go. What does their death have to do with us? We'd better stay away from them so that we don't get caught in the crossfire. Young Fan let out a sigh. His face was filled with regret as he turned around and left. As soon as Mayan enters the room, she immediately enters the Tianguang ruins. Luo Yu and the rest were bored, so they followed them in. Last time he left, he went to the #1 shop in the world, so he went to the same place this time. As a result, as soon as they entered the shop, they saw a scene that made their hair stand on end. Chapter 1130. Only Mu Yan was sitting in the shop, leisurely taking things out of the warehouse. What shocked the other 6 people of the Xiaoyao sect was the things that Mu Yan took out. 3 thick stacks of talismans were casually stacked in the middle of the shop, like toilet paper. How thick were they exactly? With Yun Ruhan's height of 8 feet, the thin talismans stacked together would reach his knees. Moreover, because they were not neatly stacked, the talismans were swaying, as if they would fall down at any time. Luo Yu swallowed her saliva. 6th senior sister, did you rob all the other talisman shops? Mu Yan looked at him with an inexplicable expression. Is it allowed to rob in Tianguang ruins? Then where did you get so many talismans? Mu Yan was even more inexplicable. Of course I drew them. No, little sister. Ling Yuma grabbed a piece of talisman paper and looked at it again and again. Her eyes almost popped out. We all know that your speed of drawing talismans is faster than ordinary people, but it's only been 10 days. You still have to travel every day, yet you've drawn so many. Isn't it too scary? Chu Moli said with a faint smile. If the customers in Tianguang ruins saw these talismans piled up like this, I'm afraid they would suspect that they bought fake ones. Mu Yan glared at Chu Moli. It's because I'm going to be very busy, and I might not have time to draw talismans, so I drew more in advance. In fact, she gritted her teeth and ruthlessly rented a puppet attendant from Tianguang ruins for a year at a high price. Every day, it would help her take out the talismans from the warehouse and place them in the shop, and it would also help North Sunflower Xiang Nuan entertain customers. Little sister, you're not just drawing more, you're clearly drawing too much. Ever since I saw little sister drawing talismans, I always feel that these talismans are like waste paper, worthless. Mu Yan touched her nose. In fact, she now also felt that ordinary talismans below the 3rd grade were too worthless. Especially after she mastered the identical compatibility contract. She still hadn't completely mastered drawing a 4th grade talisman with the identical compatibility contract. During this period of time, she had learned how to use the identical contract skill to mass-produce talismans. Of course, she was talking about ordinary talismans, not mutated talismans that needed to be integrated with zither music. Yun Ruhan stares blankly as Mu Yan takes out the Tian Mo Qin. Around her are more than a dozen fu papers and cinnabar brushes. Following the plucking of the zither strings, the dozen or so cinnabar brushes floated in midair and began to draw on the talisman paper. After a short while, more than a dozen 2nd grade talismans were successfully completed. Yun Ruhan wiped her face. In my entire life, this is the first time I've learned that talismans can be drawn like this. Ling Yuma looked like she had nothing to live for. I suddenly feel that I who wasted hundreds of talisman papers, is like a wooden club. Stick +1. Stick +2. Mayan retrieves the Tian Emo Chin, but she takes out several talismans that faintly emit a red glow. This is a third-grade variant talisman that I've just refined. It's a defensive talisman called Golden Bell Screen. The original third-rank, Golden Bell Screen, could defend against the full power of a 9th-rank Abstinence Cultivator, and it could isolate the sound from the inside and outside of the talisman. However, these talismans of Mayan's are fused with the Identical Contract skill. Mayan had experimented with it herself. With the Identical Contract skill, the effect of the variant healing talisman was better by half than the original. Chapter 1131. Luo Yu took the talisman and stuck it on the wall above the door. 6th Senior Sister, you made this talisman at the right time. Didn't Senior Brother Yang say that this is the room of the Yu Palace? If we occupy it, we'll be chased out. I'm not afraid of being chased out, but it would be troublesome to disturb someone's sleep so early in the morning. This is perfect for soundproofing. Yun Ruhan shook her head, just 3 third-grade talismans. How can we stop them if they want to barge in? Pfft, it's best if they barge in. Are we afraid of them? Mu Yan also smiles, and the few of them continue to meditate and fall asleep one after another. Even Mayan did not think that 3 third-grade defensive talismans could stop the people of that whatever palace. Silver Feather Palace. Why does this name sound familiar? At this moment, Qin Jiu mumbled, Silver Feather Palace. I seem to have heard of it somewhere. At the foot of the Danyang mountain range. Under the moonlight, a delicate girl sat by a spring, looking up at the starry sky. 2 streams of tears rolled down from her eyes. Junior Sister Xian, why are you sitting here alone? The night wind is cold, it would be bad if you get sick from the cold. A man's voice came from behind. Lu Ruoxuan turned around. Seeing that it was one of her senior brothers, she immediately showed a pitiful and delicate expression. Tears flowed down, as if she had suffered a great injustice. But, just as she was about to speak, from the side, a barbed whip lashed at her fiercely. Ah! Lu Ruoxuan screamed and fell to the ground. Then, the lashes fell mercilessly on her body like raindrops. Slut, vixen, how dare you seduce senior brother here? Are you trying to make my brother a cuckold? Jiang Xinyu's eyes were spitting fire, her face full of disgust. The whip in her hand caused Lu Ruoxuan to be covered in cuts and bruises. Lu Ruoxuan cried as she dodged Jiang Xinyu's whip. She reached out to the senior brother for help. Unfortunately, the mountain-breaking sect senior brother, who was concerned about Lu Ruoxuan, did not even dare to fart. He turned and ran. Jiang Xinyu sneered and said, "You're a jinx. If it weren't for you, our mountain-breaking sect wouldn't be despised by Grandmaster Yin Xiu. Because of you, my father almost lost his position as a peak leader. Do you think you still have a place in the mountain-breaking sect? If my brother didn't fancy you and made you his concubine, you would have been kicked out of the mountain-breaking sect long ago. You shameless woman, you actually dared to seduce another man behind my brother's back. You're really a shameless slut." Jiang Xinyu raised her whip high, and this time, she swung it towards Lu Ruoxuan's face. However, before the whip could touch Lu Ruoxuan, a man rushed out of the tent next to her and hugged Lu Ruoxuan. "Stop!" The man inclined his head, revealing an expression of rage. "Xanu, why did you hit Shang Er?" When Jiang Xinyu saw how the man was protecting Lu Ruoxuan, she immediately became even angrier. "Brother, are you blind? It was clearly this woman who seduced senior brother and made you wear a green hat. That's why I taught her a lesson." Jiang Hofei turned to look at Lu Ruoxuan. Chapter 1132. Alright, of course I believe you. Jiang Hofei raised his head, revealing an ugly face covered in scars. He stared at Jiang Xinyu angrily. Xinyu, you targeted Ro back in the sect. Now you're targeting her. She's my wife. Don't go overboard. I targeted her. Jiang Xinyu was about to explode. She was the one who cheated others and implicated the mountain-breaking sect. Even father wanted to cripple her cultivation and expel her from the sect. But brother, you have to plead for this vixen and want to marry her as a concubine. Don't you know how shameless she is and how good she is at seducing men? She married you just to make use of you. Do you really think she likes you? Shut up. Jiang Hofei suddenly swung Jiang Xinyu's whip, causing her to stumble. I won't allow you to insult Ro. She's my wife now. If you dare to touch her again, don't blame me for being rude. Jiang Xinyu trembled in anger, her eyes red. In the end, she could only glare at Lu Ruoxuan and leave angrily. Once Jiang Xinyu left, Jiang Hofei immediately hugged Lu Ruoxuan with heartache and checked her injuries. Ro, I'm sorry. It's all because of Xinyu's stubbornness. You've been wronged, Lu Ruoxuan sobbed. If not for Brother Hofei, I would have been crippled and expelled from the mountain-breaking sect. I only have gratitude and love for Brother Hofei. No matter how much I suffer, I don't care. It's just that big Brother Hofei, you have to believe Ro. Ro has never lied or seduced anyone, woo-woo. Ro was framed by someone, woo-woo, I believe you. Jiang Hofei hugged her tightly, his voice even gentler. Ro you're so beautiful, pure, and kind. I was deeply attracted to you the first time I met you. How could I believe such ridiculous words? Don't be afraid. This time, I brought enough crystals and even asked my father to pull some strings. We can enter the Starry School's inner school together. XANU's cultivation can only enter the outer school. At that time, she won't be able to bully you anymore. Lu Ruoxuan suddenly raised her head, her eyes filled with disbelief. Brother Hofei, is what you said true? But my cultivation is only at the 8th level of the body refining realm. I remember the rules of the Starry School. Only those who have reached the Anidia phase can enter the Starry School's inner school. Jiang Hofei met her tearful and expectant gaze. He gritted his teeth and took out a pill from his pocket. This 9-star pill was given to me by my father before I left. As long as I take it, I can reach the 5th stage of fasting. When Lu Ruoxuan saw the pill in Jiang Hofei's hand, her eyes lit up. Even her voice trembled. Big Brother Hofei, you mean? Jiang Hofei looked at her lovingly. As long as you consume this 9-star elixir, your cultivation will be able to break through Anidia. That way, you will be qualified to enter the Starry School's inner school. But... He frowned slightly, as though he was hesitating. XANU already has a prejudice against you. If she knew that you had consumed this 9-star pill, but she could only enter the outer academy, I'm afraid her hatred towards you would only deepen. Chapter 1133. She said emotionally, Brother Hofei, give the 9-star pill to senior sister XANU and let her enter the inner school. I'm fine. As long as I can stay by Brother Hofei's side, as long as I can look at Brother Hofei from afar, I will be satisfied. Jiang Hofei suddenly pulled her into his arms, his face full of gratitude. Jean, you're too kind and beautiful. Why does XANU always misunderstand you? No, I won't let you leave me. I'll definitely let you enter the inner school with me. Lu Ruoxuan raised her head and looked at Jiang Hofei shyly. Her cheeks were slightly red and she panted lightly. Brother Hofei, you're too good to me, Jiang Hofei's breathing became heavy for a moment. He suddenly lowered his head and kissed her soft lips. His tongue went straight in, invading every inch of Lu Ruoxuan's mouth. Lu Ruoxuan's face froze for a moment. However, when Jiang Hofei sent a pill into her mouth, she immediately hugged Jiang Hofei's neck and responded passionately. Not long after, two entangled figures rolled into the bushes at the side. In the night, the blushing panting and moaning echoed. "What's that sound? Sister, why do I hear a strange sound in the grass in front?" Jiang Hofei and Lu Ruoxuan were engrossed in their entanglement. Suddenly, footsteps approached, followed by a woman's voice. Lu Ruoxuan and Jiang Hofei jumped in fright and quickly separated. "Ah! Disgusting! It's actually a shameless couple having sex here." Lu Ruoxuan was scared out of her wits. She quickly covered her body with her clothes while trembling. Her long hair hung down, covering her ashamed and resentful face. Jiang Hofei raised his head and scolded, "Who are you? Don't you know that the mountain breaking sect has set up camp here?" "Mountain breaking sect? What's that? I've never heard of it." "Senior Brother Ching, have you?" "Ha, a small sect in a remote corner. Even if I heard of it, I'd forget." Jiang Hofei was furious and was about to scold them. However, when he raised his head and saw what they were wearing, he shuddered. You're from the Silver Plume Palace, at least you have some foresight." Hua Bus sneered and looked at Lu Ruoxuan's shoulder. Her eyes were full of disdain and mockery. A small sect is indeed a small sect. They are all so shameless. He could actually do such a thing in broad daylight, under the cover of the sky and on the ground. Just like that fool and that bitch in the heavenly Jade Mountain range. Hua Bus' face contorted at the thought of that idiot and bitch. Her eyes were burning with hatred. Therefore, when Jiang Hofei smiled and wanted to curry favor with her, Hua Bus gave him a hard kick and sent him sprawling on the ground. "Get away from me. You have a disgusting stench on you. You're disgusting." Jiang Hofei was kicked to the ground. He was battered and exhausted, but he did not even dare to show the slightest bit of anger. Lu Ruoxuan wished she could cover her face with her clothes. "Bai Yu, what's going on?" A cold female voice was heard. Chapter 1134. Hua Xiangrong immediately saw the marks on Lu Ruoxuan's body, as well as the lingering smell in the air. She frowned in disgust. "You're degrading yourself." After that, she dragged Hua Bus. "What's so good about these dirty things? Let's go to the yard to repair them as soon as possible. We'll sign up for the assessment tomorrow." When they were far away, Lu Ruoxuan slowly raised her head. There seemed to be something flashing in her eyes that were always soft and tearful. Especially when she saw the marks left by Jiang Hofei on her body, there was a fire burning in her heart. She clenched her fists so hard that her nails were almost embedded in her flesh. Let's go back to the house." After Jiang Hofei sent Hua Xiangrong and others away, he immediately turned around and hugged Lu Ruoxuan. The eagerness in his eyes had not subsided, but were full of desire. The disgust in Lu Ruoxuan's eyes flashed away. When she raised her head, she was already very delicate. "Brother Hofei, who were those people just now?" "They were people from Inu Palace. Even in the Blue World, Inu Palace is very respected. Ordinary people can't afford to offend them. But people from Inu Palace are usually very arrogant. Even if we were humiliated, we could only accept it." Lu Ruoxuan clenched her fists again. "Brother Hofei, can I go to the East Courtyard of Xingchen Mansion to have a look?" "East Courtyard?" Jiang Hofei shook his head again and again. "Although it's for the practitioners who come for the assessment, the rooms are limited. Those who can live there are all elites from big sections. At least it's first come, first served. If we go there now, there are no more rooms in the east courtyard. Lu Ruoxuan shook his hand and acted like a spoiled child. Brother Hofei, I don't want to live in the east courtyard. I just want to see what kind of luxurious place a big sect like Inu Palace will live in. Can you take me there to have a look? Jiang Hofei could not dissuade her, so he agreed to take her there. Lu Ruoxuan had already used a talisman to heal her injuries before making love with Jiang Hofei. But at this moment, she still felt a dull pain. Plus the wounds left by Jiang Hofei when they were in love, her white body was full of scars. Lu Ruoxuan burned the healing talisman and felt the stinging pain from the wounds on her body. The light in her eyes became darker and darker. Jin, why are you wearing a veil? Jiang Hofei looked at Lu Ruoxuan strangely as she took out a veil to cover her face. Lu Ruoxuan casually came up with an excuse and followed Jiang Hofei to the east courtyard of Xingchen Villa. Lu Ruoxuan touched her veiled face as she watched Jiang Hofei carefully enter the east courtyard. She didn't want others to see her together with Jiang Hofei. She did not want others to know that she was Jiang Hofei's concubine, a woman who had illicit relations with Jiang Hofei. She would be reborn in the Starry School. She would definitely have a world that belonged to her. Just as Lu Ruoxuan was immersed in her thoughts, an incredulous roar came from the second floor. Which reckless person dares to occupy my Silver Plume Palace's things? Bang, bang, bang. Violent knocks came from the second floor. Hurry up and open the door. His angry roar caused all the cultivators who were meditating to come out of their rooms. Seeing Hua Biyue and the others standing upstairs, the people resting in the east courtyard immediately exclaimed. Chapter 1135. Yeah, she even dared to occupy a room of the Inu Palace. She must be really daring. Suddenly, someone's gaze fell on the cold and elegant woman, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. Hua Xiangrong, isn't that the first Hua Xiangrong of the younger generation of the Inu Palace? She actually came to participate in the Starry School assessment. Oh, she must be the champion of this year's assessment. Hua Xiangrong walked slowly to the front of the house and looked at the nameplate hanging outside the house. Azure Heaven Realm, Ling Yumo. Never heard of her name. Senior sister, I wonder who it is that has the guts to forcefully occupy our Silver Feather Palace's house. Hua Biyue said angrily, Senior brother Qing, go and teach those ignorant people a lesson. Otherwise, people will think that the Inu Palace is easy to bully. Qing Chongshan looked at Hua Xiangrong and saw that she did not respond. He immediately stepped forward, condensed a strong spiritual power in his palm, and suddenly struck at the wooden door. The spiritual power and pressure rippled in the air. With just this one move, all the cultivators present were visibly moved. Such a strong pressure, such a high level of cultivation. No wonder she was an elite of the Inu Palace. She had such a high level of cultivation at such a young age. Everyone was waiting for the wooden door to collapse and the people inside to run out in panic. Although the Starry School's decorations were luxurious, there were no defensive matrices or orders to prohibit fighting. Although the Starry School's decorations were luxurious, there were no defensive matrices or orders to prohibit fighting. As long as no one was killed, the supervisor in charge would also turn a blind eye. Boom! There was a loud noise, and dust flew everywhere. However, the next moment, a scene that shocked everyone happened. The wooden door in front of them did not move at all. Qing Chongshan, on the other hand, was knocked back a few steps by a strong rebound. Qing Chongshan struggled to stand still and looked at the wooden door in disbelief. Even Hua Xiangrong showed a surprised expression. She stepped forward and took a look. It's a defensive talisman. There are defensive talismans in the house. Looking at the spiritual power wave, it should be below the 4th level. Ching Chongshan did not expect that his palm, which contained 70% of his power, could be blocked by a low-level defensive talisman. His face immediately revealed an expression of anger and humiliation. He coldly snorted, "A mere defensive talisman, let alone a 4th grade one, even if it's a 6th grade or a 7th grade one, your father, will definitely tear it into pieces." Everyone knew that the energy contained in the defensive talisman could be slowly consumed through attacks. In the end, the talisman would become waste paper or be burnt to ashes. At this time, Ching Chongshan already knew that this was a low-level defensive talisman, so he naturally did not care about it. He walked a few steps away and suddenly punched. The spiritual energy in the air fluctuated, and the entire 2nd floor shook. However, the wooden door in front of him remained motionless. Ching Chongshan did not believe it. He punched again and again. However, the wooden door that everyone thought would collapse at any moment. Everyone thought that the defensive talisman would burn out at any moment. However, he steadily blocked the path of everyone from the Silver Plume Palace, not moving at all. Puff! Ching Chongshan finally could not bear the backfire of the defensive talisman and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The entire eastern courtyard of the guest house was completely silent. All the surrounding cultivators looked at each other, not knowing what kind of expression they should show. Didn't they say that the Silver Plume Palace was very powerful? Didn't they say that the 7 people could be taught a very miserable lesson at any time? Chapter 1136. Hua Bu's face contorted, and she couldn't help but scold Ching Chongshan. The whip in his hand lashed out at the window. Humph, even if there was a defensive charm on the door, there shouldn't be one on the window. However, with a loud bang, it wasn't the window that fell, but Hua Bu herself. Her cultivation was far lower than Ching Chongshan's. Even Ching Chongshan vomited blood. How could she bear it? His whole body flew out and crashed heavily into the railing. His eyes rolled back and he almost fainted. Bua. Hua Xiangrong hurriedly rushed over to help her up and put the medicine in her mouth. Hua Bua opened her eyes and immediately cried, "Sister, you must take revenge for me. You must teach those shameless people a lesson." Hua Xiangrong handed Hua Bua to her junior fellow apprentice and stared at the wooden door. A cold light flashed across her eyes. She proudly stepped forward, and a long sword appeared in her hand. The spiritual energy in his body quickly circulated. Hua Xiangrong slowly lifted the long sword, and the tip of the sword emitted a faint green light. With a slight shake of his wrist, the tip of his sword drew a few complicated runes in the air. After the runes slowly took shape, Hua Xiangrong suddenly took a step forward, the spiritual force in her whole body suddenly broke out, and she fiercely chopped in the air. There was a loud bang, followed by a dazzling white light. Hua Xiangrong only felt that her internal organs were violently shaken, and a stream of fishy and sweet breath rushed to her throat. But she quickly swallowed it, and her face was still cold and arrogant. Only the hand holding the sword trembled slightly. He looked at the wooden door on the opposite side. Although the door had not yet fallen down. However, the spiritual power of the defensive talisman had already disappeared without a trace. The defensive talisman was broken by Hua Xiangrong. Great senior sister is so powerful. The people of Silver Plume Palace immediately cheered and cheered. Ha, I knew it. What kind of defensive talisman could block first senior sister's sword? Sister, quick, let's go in and teach those shameless trash a lesson. Seeing that Hua Xiangrong broke their defense with one sword move, the people of the Inu Palace were naturally very proud. As for the cultivators who were watching from below, their initial doubts towards the Silver Plume Palace's strength had turned into admiration and surprise. Did you feel Hua Xiangrong strike just now? What a powerful pressure. Not bad, not bad. Hua Xiangrong is so young, but her cultivation has at least reached the 9th stage of abstinence, right? They are all at the 9 levels of Anidia, but Hua Xiangrong's strength is much stronger than others at the 9 levels of Anidia. That is the Silver Plume Palace's true daughter. Hua Xiangrong raised her chin, withdrew her hand, and waved at the people of Inu Palace. Then, she took the lead and walked toward the door. She placed her hand on the door and was about to push it open. Suddenly, a rustling sound came from inside the house. There were also a few people with hoarse and confused voices. Why did it suddenly become so noisy? Where did the defensive talisman go? Was it blown away by the wind? No wonder it's so noisy. Little 7, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and stick a few more defensive talismans on it, lest it gets blown away by the wind. Got it, got it. Aren't we looking for it? It's all because 6th senior sister gave me too many talismans. I can't even find which one is. Oh, I found it. Piak. It was the sound of a defensive talisman being pasted on the wooden door. At the same time, Hua Xiangrong's hand suddenly tightened. However, the wooden door did not move at all. Instead, it shone with a dazzling white light. Chapter 1137. Hua Xiangrong quickly steadied herself. Hua Biyue, on the other hand, was sent flying a few meters away again. This time, she landed on the ground and fainted. First sister, this time, even Hua Xiangrong couldn't keep her cool. She clenched and loosened the sword in her hand. After a long while, she said with difficulty, "Let's go, but first sister, this is the room of our new palace." Hua Xiangrong's face became more and more ugly. Seeing this, the other Inu Palace disciples quickly shouted, "This is obviously not a 4th level talisman. It must be a 6th level defense talisman. It's already amazing that my first sister could break one. She didn't break the talisman because she doesn't want to argue with these people." Exactly. The day after tomorrow is the Starry School's entrance examination. Instead of arguing with a group of bumpkins from a remote place, we should rest and recuperate. The people of Inu Palace were talking to themselves, trying to save their lost face. Unfortunately, the onlooking cultivators were not fools. Some people could not hold back their laughter. The elites of Inu Palace were forced into their room, and they could not get it back. Some of them were even injured. The number 1 genius of Inu Palace, Hua Xiangrong, could not break a 4th level talisman. Usually, it was the big sects like Inu Palace who could teach the cultivators of the small sects a lesson. Even if it was a first-come, first-served room, if the people of the big sects could not stay in it, they would come and take it from them. These cultivators were naturally afraid of the power and prestige of the big sects, so they dared not say anything. But now, seeing them being humiliated, it was also very refreshing. Young Fan's face showed a carefree smile. But after the smile, he could not help but worry. This time, the 7 people had completely offended Inu Palace. Even if they had good defense talismans, they could not stay in Inu Palace forever. By then, what could they do? The people of Inu Palace were not deaf. Although the people below lowered their voices. However, they heard all the mockery and ridicule. When the disciples of Inu Palace went out, they were always respected and envied. They had never been humiliated like this before. For someone as hot-tempered as Qing Chongshan, he couldn't wait to rush out and kill. However, Hua Xiangrong stopped them and turned around to go down to the first floor. Qing Chongshan randomly found a room and shouted angrily, "Get out, this room is being used by our Silver Plume Palace." Hua Xiangrong frowned, but she felt a dull pain in her chest. She said solemnly, give them some compensation. Ching Chongshan said, eldest senior sister, you're too kind. It's their honor to make room for you. With that, he casually grabbed a handful of crystals and tossed them over. Take the crystals and get lost. The faces of these people who were driven away were full of shame and indignation, but they dared not say anything. In the end, he could only pick up the crystals and leave. Ching Chongshan looked in the direction of the second floor and gritted his teeth. Those bastards better not come out, or I will make them suffer. The group from the Silver Plume Palace stayed on the first floor of the east courtyard, enduring the pointing and whispering of the crowd. They wanted to wait for the people who occupied their rooms on the second floor to come out. But to his surprise, the door remained completely silent. Not even the slightest sound could be heard. Chapter 1138. Just like that, it was the morning of the third day. Today was the day of the Starry School's recruitment test. Creak. When the wooden door on the second floor that had been closed for 2 days finally opened, almost everyone in the East House raised their heads and looked in that direction. This also included Lu Ruoxuan, who was in the corner of the hall with her face covered. The people from the Inu Palace flew out of the house and looked over with anger and murderous intent. I've really learned a lot from cultivating these 2 days. I'm very energetic now. I can definitely handle the test. You're still cultivating and learning a lot. You're obviously just eating and sleeping every day. How vulgar. Eating and drinking are important things in life and also a part of cultivation. Why can't I learn a lot? Luo Yu, Ling Yuma, and Ling Yuxing bickered as they walked out of the house, laughing. Behind them were Yun Ruhan, Qin Jiao who was pushing the wheelchair, and Chu Moli who was sitting in the wheelchair. Doubts flashed across everyone's mind. These people looked unfamiliar. Where did they come from to be able to defeat the Inu Palace? Then, everyone's eyes fell on the girl who walked out of the door last. All of them sucked in a breath of cold air. What a beautiful girl. Yesterday, I thought that Hua Xiangrong was a beauty, but compared to this girl, she is like the moon and the stars. Shoo, don't talk nonsense. The people from the Inu Palace are just beside us. The moment Lu Ruoxuan saw Mayan, her pupils constricted and she clenched her fists tightly by her side. June Mayan, it was June Mayan. Why was she here? Was she also going to enter the Starry School? Seeing June Mayan, she remembered the humiliation she had suffered in the Wufing Square. And, if not for June Mayan, she would not have been forced to go to the mountain-breaking clan and lost Jiang Dehai's love. If not for Jiang Dehai, she would not have gone to Tianguang ruins to draw talismans and naturally would not have gone against Yi Liangqin. In the end, she was ruined by Yi Liangqin. And now, by Jiang Hofei. Lu Ruoxuan's body shook violently, almost unable to support herself. Jiang Hofei immediately hugged her and asked anxiously, Jean, what's wrong? Lu Ruoxuan buried her face in his chest and sobbed, Big brother Hofei, I saw the person who harmed me in the windless square. She really harmed one so badly. Back then, she clearly entered the carefree sect and left. I thought I would never see her again. Why? Why did she appear again? Sob sob sob, what if she harms Ro again? Brother Hofei, I'm so scared. When Jiang Hofei heard this, his face immediately turned cold and he coldly looked at Mu Yan that Lu Ruoxuan was pointing at. Just a moment ago, he was stunned by the beauty of this young lady, but now because of Lu Ruoxuan's words, his heart was filled with killing intent. Jean, don't worry. I will protect you. Furthermore, as long as they bully your people, Big Brother Hofei will definitely seek justice for you. He knew about the Xiaoyao sect. That could be said to be the poorest sect in the entire Blue Heaven realm. If it was the Silver Plume Palace, he could only grovel and beg for mercy. However, if it was the Xiaoyao sect, how could he, the son of the mountain-breaking sect's peak leader, care about them? Chapter 1139. After seeing Mu Yan and the others, Hua Biue also glared at them. "It's you!" She suddenly screamed, "Sister, the people who beat and humiliated me in the forest that day were that bitch and that fool. Sister, you must avenge me." Hearing Hua Biue's voice, Qinzhou suddenly looked down, with a trace of panic on his face. Little junior sister. Could it be that he had implicated everyone? Mu Yan patted his hand and said with a faint smile, "No wonder I always felt that the name Inu Palace was familiar. It turns out that it's an old acquaintance." Seeing the reaction of Mu Yan and Qinzhou, Yun Ruhan and the others immediately reacted. These people were the ones who bullied the second brother in the Tianqian Mountains? They actually dared to bully the second brother of their family. They narrowed their eyes slightly, and a cold light flashed across their eyes. At this time, Hua Biue and the others had already rushed up angrily. Hua Biue, who was the leader, was about to pounce on Mu Yan with her teeth bared and claws brandished. However, as soon as she moved, Hua Xiangrong grabbed the back of her neck. Signaling her sister to calm down, Hua Xiangrong coldly looked at Mu Yan and the others. "My sister has no grudge against you. Why did you harm her like this in the Tianqian Mountains?" Chu Moli gently pushed the wheelchair, with an extremely gentle smile on his face. "Regarding the matter in the Tianqian Mountains, my second senior brother and little junior sister were really rude and offended the senior sister of the Inu Palace. We are willing to apologize." If the one who spoke was anyone else in the Xiaoyao school, Hua Xiangrong would not let go of anyone who offended her sister. But Chu Moli's appearance was really too deceiving. In addition, he was also disabled and could not walk. No matter how one looked at him, he was weak and pitiful, which made people unable to bear to criticize him. Even Hua Biue, who was looking at Chu Moli with a gentle and handsome face, restrained some of her violent temper. "Don't think that if you apologize now, I will spare them. You. Hua Biue pointed hatefully at Mu Yan and Qinzhou. She gritted her teeth and said, "Come over here and kowtow to me to apologize, and I can spare your lives." Luo Yute said indignantly, "You were the ones who led the heaven-shaking bear to my second senior brother and sixth senior sister and beat him up. Why do you want my second senior brother and sixth senior sister to apologize?" "Shao Qi, shut up." Chu Moli's expression turned cold as he berated him. He looked at Hua Biue with an even more remorseful and gentle expression. "Shao Qi is immature. I hope that the seniors and juniors of the Silver Plume Palace will not take offense. Even if my Xiaoyao sect is only a small sect in a remote corner of the Blue Heaven realm, I have heard of the mighty name of the Silver Feather Palace. The Silver Plume Palace is chivalrous, righteous and awe-inspiring. How could they be the kind of bastards who bully the weak and bully others? I sincerely apologize to all of you for Shao Qi's rash words." As he spoke, he actually ignored his frail body and seemed to want to get up and kowtow to Hua Xiangrong and the others to apologize. But he had no strength in his legs. Just as he stood up a little, he sat down heavily and almost fell to the ground. "Third senior brother." The people of the Xiaoyao school called out nervously. Chu Moli glared at them fiercely. "Quickly apologize to the seniors and juniors of the Silver Plume Palace." Mu Yan and the others were indignant, but in the end, they still lowered their heads. Chapter 1140. Hua Biue originally wanted to teach Mayan and Qinzhou a lesson. However, Chu Moli had given them such a high compliment. Moreover, the people in the surroundings were whispering and pointing at them. For a moment, she didn't know whether she should go up and kill the two people. Hua Xiangrong narrowed her eyes and looked at Chu Moli. You really know how to talk. But, even if we don't care about what happened in the Merak Mountains, how are we going to settle the matter of you occupying my Inu Palace's room yesterday? Occupying Inu Palace's room. Chu Moli looked like he was shocked, his face full of panic. We didn't know that the room belonged to Inu Palace. The instructor at the registration office clearly told us that we can live in this house as we please. Many of the surrounding cultivators had witnessed the earth-shattering scene of knocking on the door the day before yesterday. Originally, they thought that the person who occupied the Inu Palace's room was a tough character. Everyone had been waiting in the east courtyard today, wanting to see these people go up against Inu Palace. But they didn't expect that this group of seemingly arrogant people was actually a weakling. That's right, it was Inu Palace. Even in the azure blue world, it was a famous sect. How could a small, run-down sect casually afford to offend them? Lu Ruoxuan looked at this scene, especially when she saw that even Jun Mayan had her head lowered, looking angry but not daring to speak. There was an inexplicable feeling of carefreeness and anticipation in her heart. It turned out that as long as one stood in a high enough position and obtained enough power, one could completely trample an arrogant person like Jun Mayan under one's foot. Just like back then, when she trampled her under her foot. Lu Ruoxuan slowly clenched her fists, her eyes shining with a strange light. The only one who was full of doubts was Yang Fan, who was hiding in the corner. He remembered that he had clearly reminded them that this was Inu Palace's room, and they clearly knew. Why did they look like they didn't know anything now? Could it be that they were afraid of Inu Palace's power, so they could only show weakness and beg for mercy? Hua Biyue recalled the pain she suffered when she opened the door yesterday, and instantly became furious. You think that a simple, you don't know, can cover it up? Let me tell you. Of course not. Chu Moli looked at them with a sincere expression. In order to express our apology, I am willing to gift each of you a defensive talisman. As he spoke, he took out a stack of talismans and handed it to Hua Biyue. I know that these talismans are not enough to make up for the offense you have caused. So, after the assessment, I will give you a generous gift. Seeing the talisman Chu Moli took out, Hua Biyue's eyes immediately lit up. Is this the talisman stuck on the door last night? That's right, this is a third-grade defense talisman. We bought it at the Tianguang ruins before we came to the Starry School, Yi Futian said. Chu Moli's smile became even more modest and gentle. It was neither servile nor overbearing, yet it was filled with the goodwill of wanting to reconcile. Originally, I wanted to use these talismans to help us in the examination, allowing us to obtain a good result. Now, in order to express my goodwill, I am willing to offer them all. Is this a third-grade talisman? This time, even Hua Xiangrong was shocked. The people of the Silver Plume Palace were overjoyed. One had to know that although the Starry School's entrance examination was not life-threatening, it was extremely difficult to pass. Chapter 1141. Otherwise, it would be difficult to determine a cultivator's true level. But what could third-grade ritual implements, talismans, and elixirs do? They would be of little use in a battle. There was no difference whether they brought them or not. But if these talismans were only third grade, it would be completely different. They had seen the effect of these defensive talismans with their own eyes the day before yesterday. Even Hua Xiangrong could not help but take it. Third-grade talismans. A mere third-grade talisman almost made her vomit blood because of the backlash. How was this possible? Senior sister, we still have to participate in the assessment later. I don't think we should teach them a lesson now. The disciples of Inu Palace loved the defensive talismans so much that they could not bear to part with them. Even Hua Biyue raised her head arrogantly and said arrogantly, "At least you know what's good for you. I'll settle the rest of the score with you after the assessment." Humph, if you can't give me a satisfactory compensation later, you'll have to bear the consequences. The people of Inu Palace kept their defensive talismans and left quickly. The others thought that there would be a good show to watch, but in the end, it was all these people fawning over the Inu Palace and acting submissively. They could not help but snort in disdain and left one after another. Before Lu Ruoxuan left, she took a deep look in Mu Yan's direction, then turned back and looked in the direction of Inu Palace, her eyes shining with passion. Only after everyone had left did Luo Yu burst out laughing. Third senior brother, this is the first time I know that you have the ability to change your expression. Damn, I actually had to lower my head to that bunch of trash. I'm about to die from holding it in. I want to smash their heads. Chu Moli said slowly, although the Starry School's guest house does not prohibit fighting, it definitely does not allow any malicious injuries or murders. Since we're going to beat up a snake, we naturally have to hit it where it hurts. If it's just a harmless beating, what's the point? Vicious, really vicious. Ling Yuma praised with her thumb up. Third senior brother, you're indeed the most vicious. The smile on Chu Moli's face became gentler, but for some reason, it sent chills down people's spines. Junior sister, didn't you say that? Our Xiaoyao school's motto is that if people don't offend us, we won't offend them. Since they have the guts to bully us, we naturally have to return the favor. Ling Yuxing said, what I'm more curious about is the use of the grade 3 defensive talisman that you gave them, third senior brother. Chu Moli smiles and looks towards Mayan, you'll have to ask little junior sister about this. Mu Yan touches her chin and smiles meaningfully, I also want to know. In the morning, the Starry School outer school assessment began. The outer court's assessment was very simple, and it could be said that it was just a formality. Basically, as long as a shouja met the requirements for registration and paid enough jingshi, they could be accepted. The real highlight was the upcoming inner court exam. The content of this year's exam was 30 shouja forming a group to fight against a Jindan instructor. The battle would last for an hour. In the end, the mentors would grade the students according to their performance. In the end, one score would determine whether or not one was qualified to enter the inner court. If they were eliminated by the inner court, they would automatically obtain the qualifications to enter the outer court. If they couldn't pay the expensive fees for the outer court, they would be directly eliminated. Chapter 1142. The Inu Palace and Hua Xiangrong, as the most promising cultivators this time, were naturally surrounded by people. The 30 candidates all entered the vast arena. In the center of the arena, a mentor in a black tight suit was already standing there, waiting for their challenge. The assessment began. The Inu Palace people immediately stood in their well-trained positions and attacked. However, what shocked everyone was that the first person they attacked was not the mentor, but the other cultivators standing on the arena. The 20 people were originally secretly happy that they were in the same team as the Inu Palace, thinking that they could get a good result. However, the sudden attack stunned them. What are you doing? We are teammates, why are you attacking us? Hua Biyue raised her chin and said arrogantly, I will give you two choices. Either you leave the arena yourself, or we will send you off. What do you mean? Ching Chongshan looked at Hua Xiangrong respectfully and said, the Starry School has a rule that if you can defeat a Golden Core mentor with less than 10 people in the assessment, the person who remains on the arena will be able to enter the Tianshu School directly. After saying this, he looked at the Golden Core mentor in the center of the arena. Mentor, am I right? Hearing this, the crowd was in an uproar. The Inu Palace people wanted to defeat the Golden Core mentor. Was it possible? The mentor was at least in the 5th level of the Golden Core realm. Even if it was just a faint pressure, it made them feel as if they couldn't breathe. The Golden Core mentor nodded. Yes. However, after entering the assessment, you are teammates. Eliminating your teammates is equivalent to weakening your own strength. This is not a wise move. Hua Xiangrong looked proud. It is better to have no teammates who drag us down. Hua Biyue also laughed and said, that's right. What can you trash do even if you stay on the arena? Can you help us? However, you don't have to worry about being eliminated. As long as we defeat the Golden Core Mentor, we will all get extra points. By then, you can enter the inner sect of the Starry School. Choosing the worst school is not a mistake. The 20 people on the arena were all angry but did not dare to speak. Qing Chongshan sneered and said, hurry up and leave. Do you want us to leave? In the end, even though most of the people were indignant, they still left the arena. There were also some who were unwilling and went up to resist. However, they were still kicked out by the people of the Silver Plume Palace. On the arena, there were only 9 people from the Silver Plume Palace left. Hua Xiangrong raised her long sword and pointed it at the mentor in the elixir realm standing in the middle. Attack! The clash of swords and sabers dazzled everyone's eyes. The spectators were still feeling indignant about the Silver Plume Palace's overbearing and unreasonable behavior. At this time, when he saw them, especially the strength that Hua Xiangrong displayed, he was extremely shocked. The Silver Feather Palace lived up to its name. No wonder he dared to boast that he could defeat a Golden Core Mentor. Bang! However, Golden Core Mentors were not easy to deal with. Even Hua Xiangrong gradually found it hard to resist the attacks of the enemy, which were like an inescapable net. Not to mention Hua Biyue and the others, all of them had almost exhausted their spiritual power, and their faces were pale. Suddenly, Hua Biyue thought of something. Quick, use the defense talisman. As she spoke, she had already burned the talisman. Chapter 1143. Just then, the Golden Core Mentor's palm hit, but Hua Biyue's body lit up with a dazzling white light, bouncing off the mentor's attack. Seeing this, the others quickly activated their talismans. Even Hua Xiangrong burned the defense talisman in her arms. When the Golden Core Mentor saw the light on their bodies, his eyes brightened and he revealed an interested expression. This is a rank 3 defensive talisman's protective barrier. Interesting, however, the next moment. Before the Golden Core Mentor could finish his words, a scene that left everyone dumbfounded occurred. The sun was high in the sky, and the weather was hot. Mu Yan's group of 7 leaned against the railing, bored to death. It was completely different from the others who were nervous and worried about the assessment. Luo Yu could not help yawning. How long until it's our turn? Because of the limited space and Golden Core Mentors, many cultivators had to wait for a long time. Cough, cough. So strong. How can our mentor be so strong? Just at this moment, a few people from the direction of the arena walked over shakily, their faces pale. Don't you know? This Golden Core Mentor is called Qi Ming. He has reached the 8th level of the Golden Core realm and is the strongest among all the mentors. Alas, why are we so unlucky? We only lasted for 15 minutes and were thrown off. I wonder what great Qi Ming will give me. Can I still enter the inner yard? Don't worry. Facing Qi Ming, everyone's performance is about the same. We will definitely enter the inner yard. If we defeat the Golden Core Mentor in the arena, we can directly enter the highest level of the Starry School, the Tianshu Institute. I wonder who has such ability this year. In my opinion, if anyone can defeat a Golden Core Mentor, it must be Inu Palace and Hua Xiangrong. Yes, I just heard the news from the Heaven Category Arena. It said that Hua Xiangrong has driven the other contestants off the arena and challenged the Golden Core Mentor. Are you serious? Can they really defeat a Golden Core Mentor with 9 people? No, I have to go and see. Let's go. Hearing the discussion, Mu Yan raised the corner of her mouth. Oh, I wonder if the Inu Palace people used the talismans given by third brother. While thinking about this, suddenly, there was a huge commotion in the heaven category arena. Then, countless people rushed out from inside. As they ran, they kept fanning their noses with their hands. Their faces were almost distorted. Oh my God, it's too smelly. Why is it so smelly? What is going on with these people from the Silver Plume Palace? All of you look like decent people, but I don't know what you ate last night. How can your fart be so stinky? Oh, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to faint. I'm going to faint from the smell. As the shusha charged out, there was also an overwhelming stench. What the hell is going on? The practitioner, who was about to go to the heaven ring to take a look, could not help but stop the person who came. He covered his nose and asked in surprise, "Didn't they say that the people from the Silver Plume Palace challenged the Golden Elixir mentors to enter the Tianshu Institute?" Chapter 1144. Poof. You don't know that Hua Bue, with a loud fart, actually sent herself flying and was eliminated directly. Then, that smelly fart made her faint. Ugh, hearing the description of these people who came out of the heaven ring, everyone was dumbfounded. Was this a joke? On the other side, the Xiaoyao 7, who were bored to death in the corridor, could not help laughing after being stunned. Loud fart. A loud fart that sent herself flying. Ha ha ha, little junior sister, you're too awesome. I'm convinced, I'm really convinced this time. Ha ha ha. Whenever I think of that group of people farting in the arena, and even sending me flying, my stomach. Ha ha ha. It hurts so much. Mu Yan also could not help laughing. She just mixed a little of the fat rabbit's poop into the cinnabar used to draw talismans, and slightly changed the talisman lines of the defensive talisman. She did not expect that it would cause such a shocking effect. A loud fart sent herself flying. Poof! Just when everyone was convulsing with laughter, Hua Xiangrong and others rushed out of the heaven ring. Each of their faces was so gloomy that it could almost drip water. Especially when the onlookers were pointing at them while fanning the stinky air. Suddenly, Hua Xiangrong's eyes turned and fell on this side of the corridor. Monstrous anger sprang up in her eyes. You actually dare to fool me. As soon as her voice fell, she had already soared into the sky. At this time, the people of Inu Palace also naturally found Mu Yan and her party, screaming and rushing over with twisted faces. Especially Hua Bue, who had just woken up. Thinking of her embarrassment just now, her delicate face was completely twisted. Bitch, it's all your fault. I'm going to kill you, I'm going to tear you all to pieces. The main target of the people of Inu Palace was naturally Chu Moli, who had deceived them. Seeing Hua Xiangrong's sword light approaching, Chu Moli's face did not change, and his heart did not jump. On the contrary, a light and gentle smile hung on his face. Second brother. As soon as his voice fell, Qin Jiu had already taken a step forward, operated a powerful spiritual force, and suddenly attacked in the air. With a loud bang, Hua Xiangrong's irresistible sword was forcibly pushed several feet away. Hua Xiangrong hurriedly retreated a few steps in the air and managed to stand still. She looked at Qin Jiu with eyes full of shock. Hua Bue, who was screaming and rushing over, was kicked to the ground by Len Yumo. When she raised her head again, blood had already covered her mouth and nose, and a tooth had been spat out along with the bloody foam. Hua Xiangrong's expression changed again and again. She looked at Mu Yan and the others coldly and said, "Do you really want to be the enemy of our Inu Palace? Saying that we're enemies is just an exaggeration." Mu Yan leisurely smiles. "Those talismans really do have a defensive effect, don't they? Our third senior brother didn't cheat you. You didn't trick us." Ching Chongshan shouted angrily, that talisman of yours caused us to release, in the arena. How dare you say you didn't trick us? Chapter 1145. Puff. To expel the foul air, no wonder the fart was so smelly. Ha ha ha, it's good to expel the foul air, but it's a pity that a group of people farted one after another in the arena under the watchful eyes of thousands of people. Ha ha ha. The reputation of Inu Palace is ruined. Listening to the ridicule of the people around, Hua Xiangrong's eyes condensed a strong killing intent. No matter how glib your tongue is, I will tear you into pieces today. As she spoke, the turbulent spiritual power gushed out of her body. The powerful pressure made the onlookers all change their expressions. At this time, they realized that in the competition just now, Hua Xiangrong did not use her full strength at all. Hua Xiangrong is called the first genius of Inu Palace, and she really deserves the reputation. It's over. The people of the Xiaoyao school are doomed. They deserve it. Of all people to offend, they offended Inu Palace. Hua Xiangrong's fierce blow was about to be launched. Suddenly, a shout came from the black arena. Yun Ruhan from the Blue Heaven Realm, Qin Zhou from the Blue Heaven Realm, Jun Mayan from the Blue Heaven Realm, Lan Luoyu from the Blue Heaven Realm. Get in here and participate in the assessment immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves and a strong gust of wind blew. A powerful force pulled Mu Yan and the rest into the arena. Hua Xiangrong gnashed her teeth and stared at the direction of the arena with hatred. You're lucky. Hua Xiangrong had never suffered such humiliation. She would remember this humiliation. And she would definitely get it back. On the black arena, Mayan looked at Qi Ming, the mentor in the elixir realm standing in the center, and her heart slightly palpitated. This person's strength was so strong. No, it should be said that he was too strong. He was even far stronger than Qian Feng, whom she met in the windless square. As if sensing her gaze, Qi Ming also turned to look at her. He slightly narrowed his eyes, and then said with a bit of cynicism, I can give you a chance. As he spoke, he gently waved the sword in his hand. A circle immediately appeared around him. If anyone can force me out of this circle, you have defeated me. The gate of Tianshu Institute is open to you. It was just a small circle with a diameter of less than 6 meters. It was normal for him to move and dodge away from Xiao Yuan. Hearing this, the Xiuzha on the stage all showed expressions of eagerness. A burly man with a scar on his forehead stood out and said loudly, Everyone, I'm Yuzhenjia, a disciple of the Han Yuan sect. Today, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to defeat a Jin Dan mentor in the assessment. But if we want to seize this opportunity, we must work together. The man's appearance was ordinary, but his voice was deep and steady, very persuasive. Coupled with the fact that he said he was a disciple of the Han Yuan sect, everyone immediately gathered around him. Fellow Daoist Yu, how do you think we should cooperate? Yuzhenjia raised his eyebrows and rolled his eyes. This time, there are a total of 10 disciples from the Primal Chaos sect in the arena. We often practice together and have mastered a powerful formation. We have a 70% chance of defeating an ordinary golden core cultivator if the 10 of us join forces. However, I heard that teacher Qi Ming is the strongest teacher sent by the Starry School. If we want to win, I'm afraid we'll need your help. Chapter 1146. Yuzhenjia looked at the crowd. The matrix formed by the 10 of us is powerful, but we need time to set it up. We only need you to enter the inner circle and attack to attract Qi Ming's attention. At the same time, ensure that we are not injured. When the matrix is completed, it will be our moment of victory. The crowd looked at each other and hesitated. After all, no one wanted to be the vanguard to die. However, Yuzhenjia was eloquent and his words were very provocative. With his eloquence, most people started to be tempted. After all, as long as they defeated the examiner, even if they did not last and could not enter Tianshu Institute, the additional points would be enough for them to enter Starry School's inner school. In the end, most people nodded in agreement. Yuzhenjia's eyes flashed with pride. He waved his hand and asked everyone to move closer to the center of the arena. In the end, he glanced sideways and realized that 7 people did not follow him. Instead, they were sitting at the corner of the arena leisurely. Luo Yu took out chicken drumsticks one by one. Big brother, 6th sister, come here. This drumstick was roasted by 5th brother. It's delicious. Looking at the 7 people munching on the drumsticks with gusto, as if they were in a restaurant instead of a dueling ring, Yuzhenjia frowned and walked up to them. My friends, you came all the way here to participate in the Starry School examination. Don't you want to get good results? Although the 30 of us are from different clans, we are one now. Only by working together and cooperating sincerely can we get good results. Yun Ruhan gave a gentle smile and said politely, no need. We are used to fighting on our own. Anyway, the final score is decided by the tutor based on individual performance. After you are done, we can go challenge others. Yuzhenjia's face darkened. Everyone is working hard for this examination, but you want to sit and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Aren't you too selfish? Yun Ruhan frowned and was about to speak, but Mu Yan had already raised her head and said with a faint smile, sitting and enjoying the fruits of others' labor is better than someone tricking others to be the scapegoat and reaping the benefits, right? You. Yuzhenjia's expression became extremely ugly. However, before he could finish, Leng Yuma interrupted, what about you? Scram, 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 scram. You can scheme all you want and fight all you want. If you disturb me from eating chicken again, don't blame me for being impolite. Yuzhenjia was seething with anger. He still wanted to say something, but he was pulled back by his junior brother. Senior martial brother, ignore them. This group of people looks like bumpkins from a small sect. Even if they join, how much combat power can they have? Saying that, he glanced disdainfully at Mu Yan and the others. Perhaps they still think that by hiding at the side like turtles, they will be able to enter Tianshu Academy after we defeat teacher. They don't even know that we have to calculate spiritual power fluctuations during the test. A bunch of fools. There was an invisible rule in the Starry School's examination. No matter how the format of the inner court exam changed, this rule had never changed. The rune arrays had already been set up around the ring, and they would automatically calculate everyone's spiritual energy fluctuations. It didn't matter if the attack was directed at his companions or his mentor. If the final spiritual energy fluctuation did not meet the requirements, even if one stood until the end of the stage, they would still be eliminated. Chapter 1147. On the contrary, Qi Ming, who is in the center of the ring, casts a meaningful glance at them. A quarter of an hour later. Silence reigns on the ring. Yuzhenjia's complexion is deathly pale and his body is on the verge of collapse. He glances at his fellow apprentices who have fallen beside him and Qi Ming, who hasn't moved a single step. His eyes are full of fear. Too strong. How could Qi Ming be so strong? More than 20 of them did their best, but they didn't even have the qualifications to make him move a single step. How could such a monster be defeated? Qi Ming looks at Yuzhenjia with a smile that isn't a smile. Do you want to get off by yourselves, or do you want me to kick you off? Yuzhenjia's eyes flash with humiliation and unwillingness. His complexion changes again and again, but he eventually leaves the ring with his tail between his legs. On the other side, Yun Ruhan claps her hands and stands up, saying, this time, it's our turn. Mu Yan is about to get up, but Chu Moli presses on her shoulder. Junior sister doesn't need to come out for this round. Mu Yan looks up in surprise. Chu Moli smiles deeply, lowers his voice, and slowly says, "The entrance examination is just a small test. It would be too wasteful to expose junior sister's strength. If the 6 of us can't handle it, junior sister only needs the help of the zither." Chu Moli's voice is very low, so other people can't hear it. But the people of the Xiaoyao school can hear it clearly. Their eyes are full of interest, shining brightly. Third brother is right. It's just a small entrance examination, there's no need for junior sister to act. Mu Yan smiles faintly when she hears this. She doesn't say anything, but takes out the Tian Mo Chin and gently plucks the strings. The sound of the zither is impassioned. Although it doesn't contain any Shin musician skills, it's majestic, as if it's sending them forward, as if it's waiting for them to return victorious. Yuzhenjia has just jumped off the ring when he sees Yun Ruhan and the others walking towards Qi Ming. He simply can't believe his eyes. Are they crazy? They didn't see what happened to us, yet they still dare to challenge Qi Ming. They're sitting there motionless, without even the slightest fluctuation of spiritual power. Even if they don't challenge him, they can only be eliminated. They might as well run to their deaths, and maybe earn some points. I don't think they'll need more than a cup of tea's time to escape. Yuzhenjia and the others are slandering Mayan and the others as much as they can. Hua Xiangrong and the others, who had just walked into the hall to watch the challenge, stared at the ring without blinking, their eyes full of strong killing intent. At this time, all of them had changed their clothes, and the disgusting stench had been washed away. However, the people from the Silver Plume Palace could not help but frown in disgust. He felt that the stench and the sound of the fart seemed to follow him like a shadow. "Sister, these bitches, it's all because of these blades. You have to take revenge for me." Hua Bu's eyes were red as she covered her mouth to cover her falling teeth. Her eyes were filled with hatred. The rest of the people from the Silver Plume Palace were also gnashing their teeth. How dare they embarrass our Silver Plume Palace so much? If we don't take revenge for this, we are not human. When Hua Xiangrong thought of the loud fart she had let out in public, her face twisted. Just as she was about to speak, the 6 people on the stage moved. The first to attack was Wine Qin. His cultivation was the highest, his foundation was solid, and he had infinite strength. But his moves were not the slightest bit fancy. Chapter 1148. Qi Ming's blushing, drooping eyes, and careless expression finally changed slightly at this moment. The corner of his mouth hooked into an interested smile. Interesting. He raised the sword in his hand slightly and drew a line in the air, but not towards Qinzhou. Not towards Qinzhou, but to his surprise, it actually diverted Qinzhou's fist wind to the other side. With a loud boom, the bluestone floor of the arena was blasted into a spider web of cracks. Below the arena, it was completely silent. The spiritual energy fluctuation and pressure from Qinzhou's punch just now made their scalps go numb. Didn't those people come from an unknown small sect in the Blue Heaven realm? How could they be so strong? If that attack just now was aimed at me, I would be completely powerless to block it. Qinzhou's punch was diverted. He wanted to attack again, but Qi Ming's second sword had already arrived. This second sword was not a horizontal slash, but a light circle. But such a circle made Qinzhou's face suddenly turn red. Because at this moment, he was surrounded by sword light. He felt that he had no way to retreat. Just as Qi Ming's sword momentum was about to reach Qinzhou. Chu Moli's voice sounded slowly, "Old 5." Before he finished speaking, Qi Ming suddenly felt his elbow being pulled by something. He couldn't move. He looked up and saw a tall and beautiful woman holding a needle and thread in her hand. Her slender fingers were flicking. And what was pulling his elbow was the thread that Ling Yuxing had wrapped around his body. When did these threads wrap around him? He didn't know at all. While Qi Ming was still in shock, Ling Yuxing had already flicked her fingers. Dozens of silver needles flew towards Qi Ming at lightning speed. Qi Ming wanted to bend down to dodge, but the thread wrapped around his body prevented him from doing so. In the nick of time, he could only take a step back and avoid the attack. Below the arena, many people gasped in shock. They actually forced teacher Qi Ming to move a step. Just now, the Hunyuan sect disciples formed a sword formation. 20 people attacked together, but they couldn't make teacher Qi Ming move at all. Who is this Xiaoyao sect? How come both of them are so strong? What these shocked onlookers didn't know was that the attack of the 6 people from the Xiaoyao sect had only just begun. Qi Ming had just dodged Ling Yuxing's attack. He broke the threads on his body and was about to raise his sword to attack. Chu Moli said again, "Xiao Qi. I'm ready." Luo Yu revealed a bright and adorable smile, her fingers moving in the air. Qi Ming was wondering what kind of tricks they had up their sleeves. Suddenly, countless birds fell from the sky, completely blocking Qi Ming's line of sight. Almost at the same time, a swarm of mice appeared on the ground and crawled into Qi Ming's clothes. If one looked closely, they would discover that these birds and mice were not real birds and mice, but lifeless puppets. Sweat appeared on Luo Yu's forehead. Her face was pale, but her hands did not stop moving. Qi Ming's movements finally showed a hint of panic. He abruptly erupted the spirit energy in his body, shaking off the bird and rat puppets around him. But before he could recover his keen insight, 2 sword lights with the momentum of 1,000 caddies whizzed toward him. Ling Yuma and Yun Ruhan's figures intertwined in the air. Chapter 1149. There was a loud bang. Qi Ming's face paled slightly. His entire body was pushed back several meters by the huge force. His shoes also made a piercing sound as they rubbed against the stone floor. Seeing that he was about to reach the edge of the circle he had drawn, Qi Ming barely managed to steady himself. Just then, Chu Moli pressed the armrest of the wheelchair lightly. In the next moment, a ray of light as fast as lightning shot towards Qi Ming. There was no obvious murderous intent in the light, as if it was just a light push. However, Qi Ming's body was already unstable and he was already at the edge of the circle. The light push was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Below the arena, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Qi Ming had been forced to leave the circle he had drawn. Were they going to win? These unknown people from the Xiaoyao clan were actually going to enter the Tianshu Institute that everyone in the Starry School yearned for. Time seemed to be stretched into a long breath after a breath. Everyone's eyes were on Qi Ming, waiting for him to land and step out of the circle. However, at this moment, the sword in Qi Ming's hand suddenly fell, and when it reached his feet, it suddenly enlarged. The sword whistled, carrying him and slowly descended. He was still in the circle. Above and below the arena, there was complete silence. In the next moment, there was a burst of enthusiastic cheers. "It's the flight of the sword, it's the flight of the sword. I didn't expect Professor Qi Ming to be able to use the flight of the sword. I heard that ordinary golden essence cultivators can only use flying treasures. If you want to use a normal sword to fly, you usually have to wait until you reach the nascent soul realm. I didn't expect Professor Qi Ming to be able to do it already. For cultivators below the nascent soul realm, normal offensive treasures could not fly. Only specially refined flying magical equipment could fly under the drive of spiritual energy or crystal stones. Only when one reached the nascent soul realm could they experience the mysteries of the world and control everything with their body. Any treasure that could carry spiritual qi would be able to fly. Qi Ming was only in the golden essence realm, but he could already use the flight of the sword. This was enough to show how powerful and talented he was. Qi Ming controlled his flying sword and slowly landed in front of Yun Ruhan and the others. His face didn't have the slightest trace of annoyance from being forced into such a sorry state just now. Instead, he was full of interest. It's been a long time since someone has forced me to this point. I'm interested in playing with you guys. His gaze fell on the wheelchair-bound Chu Moli. If I'm not mistaken, those interlinked attacks that forced me into such a sorry state were launched by you, right? Chu Moli smiled faintly. His expression was gentle and respectful. I never thought that the attack just now would be able to cause any real harm to Instructor Qi Ming. Qi Ming arched an eyebrow. You still have a trick up your sleeve. Chu Moli also slowly raised his handsome eyebrows, and said unhurriedly, without any tricks up our sleeves, how can we hope to defeat Instructor Qi Ming? Defeat? Chu Moli wasn't talking about forcing him out, but defeating him. Qi Ming was stunned for a moment, then he couldn't help but laugh out loud. I haven't seen such an arrogant new student in a long time. I like your confidence. However, it's still too early for you guys to defeat me. Whether it's too early or not, how would you know if you don't try? This time, it wasn't Chu Moli who answered him. Instead, it was a pleasant female voice that sounded like the sounds of nature. Chapter 1150. In the battle just now, she was playing the zither casually, as if she was outside of the world, making people forget about her. It was only at this moment that Qi Ming suddenly came to his senses. He drew a circle and set the new challenge rules just now because he saw this girl. His intuition told him that this girl's strength was extraordinary, making him want to explore it. Qi Ming's eyes flickered, and he was about to speak. But suddenly, the girl's casual movement of plucking the zithers suddenly changed. Clanging sounds, accompanied by ripples of spiritual energy, resounded throughout the world. Echo aura, activated. Graceful feather, activated. Qi Ming's expression suddenly changed. In the blink of an eye, he felt that the aura and spiritual power of the 6 people surrounding him had completely changed. The battle, from this moment on, had just begun. Feeling the spiritual power slowly filling his body, Yun Ruhan slightly cupped his hands at Qi Ming. Instructor, sorry for the offense. As soon as he finished speaking, his long sword trembled and made a buzzing sound. At the same time, Leng Yuma's sword slashed over and clashed with his sword in the air. Clang! Metal clashed. The next moment, there was a raging spiritual power cleansing. Qi Ming's expression changed again, and he quickly raised his sword to block. But even though he was using his spiritual power at an extremely fast speed, he still felt a strong, hurricane-like blade wrapped with killing intent coming at him. Qi Ming quickly retreated, and at the same time, the sword light in his hand danced like an inescapable net. When Yun Ruhan and Leng Yuma's sword light was dispersed, Qi Ming's forehead was already slightly sweating. But before he could heave a sigh of relief, he suddenly felt a chill behind him. Qi Ming suddenly turned around, but only saw a light purple afterimage. It was that tall beauty. Ling Yuxing was the fastest among the 6 Xiaoyao warriors, and his attacks were the steelest. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to wrap the silk thread around Qi Ming without him noticing. But Ling Yuxing's speed was at least twice as fast as before. Even with Qi Ming's eyesight, he couldn't see Ling Yuxing's movements and figure. Qi Ming's eyes focused, and the spiritual power in his dantian revolved. The long sword in his hand disappeared, and turned into a palm, fiercely hitting Ling Yuxing's afterimage. Puff! Ling Yuxing suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood as he flew out and crashed heavily onto the ground. But on his face, there was a beautiful and proud smile. Qi Ming's heart sank abruptly. Just as he was about to move, he noticed that his body actually seemed to be tied up by something, causing him to be unable to move. Almost at the same time, a huge figure descended from the sky. It was a puppet that looked like a gorilla. Luo Yu's finger hung high in the air, motionlessly controlling the puppet. Just as Qi Ming was about to break the rope, the gorilla puppet suddenly grabbed Qi Ming's waist and threw him into the air. Second bro! Chu Moli shouted, and pressed the mechanism on the wheelchair at the same time. A ray of white light shot into the air, but it did not attack Qi Ming. Instead, it seemed to have encountered some sort of resistance. It paused for a moment in midair before slowly descending. Qin Zhou roared, his tall and sturdy body rose from the ground and stepped on the ball of white light with one foot. He punched out. Bang! The bluestone floor cracked, sand and stones flew everywhere, and dust filled the air. Qin Zhou's figure landed on the ground from midair, and stood behind Chu Moli. Yun Ruhen, Leng Yuma, Ling Yuxing, and Lan Ruoyu stood on both sides. Chapter 1151. The melodious music was like a gurgling stream, flowing through every inch of space in the arena. Qi Ming fell on the crack in the stone floor and slowly climbed up. His current position was already far away from the circle he had drawn. Looking at the girl with a lazy smile, Qi Ming's face showed shock for the first time. This round of attack was also from 6 people. Just now, he had been able to deal with them easily and still hold back, wanting to see their true abilities. But this time, just because of the melodious sound of the zither, he was forced out of the circle. Above and below the arena, it was even more silent. What happened just now? The 6 people from the Xiaoyao sect actually forced Qi Ming out of the circle. Just now, there were more than 20 of us facing Qi Ming, but we couldn't even take 3 moves from him. How can the 6 people from the Xiaoyao sect be so strong? They're too strong. No, that's not right. Didn't you realize that at the beginning, although the 6 of them almost forced Qi Ming out of the circle, they were obviously not as strong as Qi Ming? But now, why do I feel that their combined attack is even stronger than Qi Ming's? It's that girl, the girl who plays the guqin. She must be a musician, a support-type musician. I've also heard that powerful musicians can help heal in battle, strengthen teammates, and hinder enemies. But I always thought it was just a legend. No, it's not a legend. Isn't there a clan in the Azure Blue world called Cleansing Joy Pavilion? It was said that the musicians who came from there were all very powerful musicians who could assist, control the situation of the battle, and even heal minor injuries. Is this girl from Cleansing Joy Pavilion? I also know about Cleansing Joy Pavilion, but I heard that the people from Cleansing Joy Pavilion are extremely aloof and don't easily interact with the outside world. Why would they appear in Starry School? Qi Ming's gaze also fell on Mu Yen. He said slowly, "You're from Cleansing Joy Pavilion." Cleansing Joy Pavilion. What's that? Mu Yen asked curiously. I've never heard of it. Qi Ming's expression was extremely complicated. He looked at Mu Yen as if he was looking at a monster, and also as if he was looking at a rare treasure. I've seen many support-type cultivators in the Starry School, but I've never seen anyone like you who can use the support-type ability to such a terrifying extent. In fact, in the cultivation world, every year, Fengtian, Xingqian, and Spirit Martial Academies would hold a hegemonic tournament. Among them, the 10-man team battle was the most important part of the academy tournament. In a team battle, apart from needing powerful attackers, they also needed support. For example, those who were good at healing, those who were good at crowd control, those who were good at enhancing the strength of their teammates. The shoujo that the academy recruited were not all skilled in attacking. They would also focus on nurturing support talents in this area. Many shoujo, especially female shoujo, did not have outstanding talent in fighting. There were also many people who chose to study the support element, and it was very popular in the academy. But Qi Ming had never seen a support-type shoujo like the young girl in front of him that could give her teammates such a terrifying boost. Chapter 1152. You've all performed well. You've forced me out of the circle, and you've won today's assessment. I'll report to the school and invite you to Tianshu Academy. As soon as Qi Ming said this, the practitioners below immediately sighed with envy. But the strength shown by the Xiaoyao 7 just now had already convinced them, and they couldn't say a word of objection. Even the people of Inu Palace looked pale. They had just vowed that they would take revenge, but now they found out that they had lost everything. Motherfucker, their strength could not even be compared to these fellows who came from a small sect in a corner of the Blue Heaven domain. They were the elites of Inu Palace, but except for Hua Xiangrong, anyone in their group could only be beaten up by the Xiaoyao sect. These bastards, where did these monsters come from? However, the reaction of the people of the Xiaoyao sect was beyond everyone's expectation. Ling Yuma was disappointed when she heard that they could directly recommend Tianshu Academy. She held her sword eagerly. It's over. But it hasn't been an hour yet, has it? I still want to try and see if I can defeat a Jindan realm teacher. Luo Yuk showed a somewhat distressed expression. I haven't had enough yet, but each of my puppets is so expensive. If we continue, we'll waste a lot of crystals. Mu Yen stopped plucking the strings and chuckled. Don't worry, 6th senior sister has a lot of crystals, Xiaoqi, you can waste them as much as you want. But the opportunity to challenge a Jindan realm practitioner is something you can only dream of. Chu Moli nodded slowly. Yes, we just said that we'll defeat a Jindan realm teacher. Qi Ming's mouth twitched. This group of ungrateful little bastards. He wanted to recommend them into Tianshu Academy, but they didn't appreciate it. He gritted his teeth and said, You really want to continue the challenge? If you lose, I can't guarantee that you can enter Tianshu Academy. The Tianshu Institute was a great temptation. The others tried their best but couldn't reach it. But the Xiaoyao 7 nodded without hesitation. They all felt that, compared to entering Tianshu Academy, it was more urgent for them to have a good fight with a Jindan realm practitioner. Looking at the burning and determined eyes of the children in front of him, the indignation in Qi Ming's heart was slowly replaced by admiration. Looking at these 7 people, he felt like he was looking at his past self. Stubbornness, tenacity, desire to climb to the peak, and never admit defeat. The corner of his mouth slowly curled into a smile. All right, then I'll fight with you again. The sound of the zither lingered in the air, and the will to fight rose again. Who would be the final victor? The practitioners who watched this arena battle felt that they would never forget this battle for the rest of their lives. If one were to say that they were dissatisfied with the Xiaoyao 7's arrogance at the beginning, then they would be dissatisfied. After watching the following battle, they were left with only shock and fear. These 7 people, no, perhaps it should be said that the 6 people who had the support of the Absolute Beauty were too strong. In the previous battle, Qi Ming had only used 30% of his strength, and it was already enough to make students cry for their parents. But now, facing these 6 people, even after using 90% of his strength, he could only fight evenly with them. As the battle intensified, Yun Ruhan's group of 6 sustained more and more wounds. Chapter 1153. Qi Ming's title of this year's assessment Strongest Instructor was not for nothing. When his swordsmanship was completely unleashed, it was like a raging storm, blotting out the sky and covering the earth, making it impossible for people to resist. The first to be sent off the stage was Luo Yu. Next was Ling Yuxing, who was already injured. In the end, only Chu Moli and Mu Yan were left on the huge stage. At this moment, everyone knew that the Xiaoyao 7 had lost. The surrounding practitioners did not feel carefree at all. Instead, they were full of lament and regret. Almost, really just a little bit and they would have won. Qi Ming coughed lightly, a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. But there was no depression on his face, only fighting spirit. Do you still want to continue? Mu Yan was about to speak, but Chu Moli pushed his wheelchair forward, slowly saying, "We admit defeat." Mu Yan was startled, but she saw Chu Moli turn his head to look at her, smiling gently, but his gaze was on the people of Silver Feather Palace below the stage, a scheming glint flashing in his eyes. Oh, third senior brother's meaning was very clear. He wanted her to hide her strength. Mu Yan touched her nose, no longer speaking. Qi Ming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, coughing twice again. How many years has it been since I was forced into such a sorry state, and I was still forced into it by you little brats. Interesting, hehe, this year's Constellation freshmen are really interesting. But, it was really dangerous. If I let you little brats grow for a while longer, would have really lost. If I lose to a student in public, then my old face will be completely lost today. Chu Moli laughed softly, and said meaningfully, "Instructor, you really should be thankful that this is a public place, or else who would have won and lost, we still don't know." He did not want to reveal his little junior sister's true strength at all. Qi Ming was startled, not understanding what he meant. Chu Moli did not wait for him to ask. The wheelchair flew high up, and steadily landed below the stage. Mu Yan smiled slightly, not leaving immediately. "Instructor Qi Ming, you still have to assess the other students, right?" Qi Ming nodded, but his brows were slightly furrowed. Although he had just defeated the Unfettered 7, he was also injured. It was naturally not a problem to test the remaining students. However, if he didn't treat his injuries as soon as possible and continued to use his spiritual power, blood clots might accumulate in his body and eventually become a chronic disease. Qi Ming was just about to take out a pill to consume. Suddenly, the sound of a zither rang out. Following that, Qi Ming felt a warm current flowing into his body from all directions along with the sound of the zither. The burning pain in his internal organs was soothed, and the clotted blood in his chest was also slowly dissolving. Qi Ming suddenly looked at Mayan, his eyes unblinking, full of shock. However, Mu Yan leisurely smiled and flew down the stage. Only a light and pleasant voice echoed in the air. "Teacher, thank you for practicing with us. This is our thanks and apology." Qi Ming's pupils suddenly contracted. Chu Moli's words suddenly echoed in his mind. "Teacher, you really should be thankful that we're in public right now. Otherwise, it's hard to say who would have won or lost. Don't tell me these 7 people haven't used their full strength. When they were fighting against a Golden Core mentor, they were actually hiding their strength." Chapter 1154. As soon as Mayan landed, she immediately said, "Let's go." Xiao Qi, 5th brother, and 4th sister were all seriously injured and needed to recuperate. When they reached the door, the people of Inu Palace blocked their way. Hua Bua screamed, "Sister, they have exhausted their spiritual power and are covered with wounds. It's time to teach them a lesson." Chu Moli looked at Hua Xiangrong with a faint smile. "So, the Inu Palace only has the ability to take advantage of others. Really, seeing you in person is not as good as hearing about you. You don't talk nonsense and slander the Inu Palace." Chu Moli's face darkened and he said coldly, "Even if you want to take advantage of others, we will accompany you. If you want to teach us a lesson, you have to see if you have the ability. Qing Chongshan and Hua Biyue were full of hatred and were about to rush up, but they were stopped by Hua Xiangrong. Her eyes were almost spitting fire, but she forced herself to endure it. She glanced at Chu Moli and Mayan with a knife-like gaze. Hua Xiangrong, do not take advantage of others. But remember, we will meet again. How dare you trample on the dignity of the Yinyu Palace? Soon, I will make you pay 10 times or even 100 times more. Mayan sneered, if you want to keep the dignity of the Yinyu Palace, you have to keep an eye on your sister and brothers. If you can't educate your younger sister well, then we'll teach her a lesson for you. That's right. After that, she left without waiting for Hua Xiangrong's reaction. Hua Biyue's face was extremely ugly. Sister, are we just going to let them go like this? Hua Xiangrong looked at the direction where Mayan left and gritted her teeth. Let's go. Sister. Don't worry. When they enter the school, they will know the consequences of offending the Yinyu Palace. The lively Starry School's entrance examination finally came to an end. All the cultivators who were accepted received an identity token issued by the academy. The token of the inner yard students was gold. The token of the outer yard students was silver. As for which branch the students would be assigned to, it would be decided after they entered the school. Luo Yu threw the golden nameplate in her hand and smiled very cutely. Are we going to Tianshu Courtyard? In the Starry School, there were 4 faculties, Dubhe, Merak, Fekta, Migres, Alioth, Mizar, and Alcade. Among them, the Tianshu institution was undoubtedly the highest grade institution that only geniuses could enter. The Precious Light Courtyard was located outside the deserted Desolate branch. The competition between the other 5 academies was very intense, and their strengths were equally matched. It could be said that it was the place that most students would choose to go. Yun Ruhan said, it doesn't matter which courtyard we go to, as long as the 7 of us don't split up. Just as he was speaking, a loud noise suddenly came from the crowd not far away. Bitch, why did you enter the inner yard? How did your cultivation suddenly reach the abstinent stage? Mayan looks over and sees a woman dressed in purple. She is swinging a whip and ruthlessly lashing the girl on the ground. The girl on the ground was crying and begging for mercy. Her cries of blood were unspeakably pitiful. However, when Mu Yen saw their appearances clearly, she raised her eyebrows in surprise. Was it really possible to bump into acquaintances everywhere? What's more, he met 2 of them at once. Chapter 1155. The girl whipped by Jiang Xinyu was actually Lu Ruoxuan, whom she had feuded with again in the Tianguang ruins a few days ago. Mu Yan could not help but sigh at Lu Ruoxuan's tenacity. She had lost so much face in the Tianguang ruins that even the mountain-breaking sect wanted to expel her. Mu Yan had thought that she would never be able to get up again. Unexpectedly, she had appeared in the Starry School again. And she had even passed the Starry School's inner school examination. Could a person's luck really be this good? Xinyu, what are you doing? An ugly man with a face full of scars rushed out and grabbed Jiang Xinyu's whip, throwing her to the side. Who told you to treat Jiang Xinyu like this? Lu Ruoxuan's face was full of tears, but she pushed Jiang Hofei away firmly. Brother Hofei, don't be like this. Senior sister Xinyu is already upset enough that she could not enter the inner school. If she can vent her anger, she will feel better. I don't mind even if I am injured. Jiang Hofei looked at Lu Ruoxuan's injured body, his heart aching. Jiang Xinyu, why are you always so kind that it hurts me? Then, he looked at Jiang Xinyu coldly and angrily. Jiang Xinyu, don't go overboard. If you dare to touch Jiang Xinyu again, don't blame me for being impolite. Jiang Hofei, you are my brother. How can you be impolite to me for this shameless bitch? Jiang Xinyu was so angry that she was trembling. Tell me, did you help this bitch reach the grain-fasting realm so quickly? Jiang Hofei's eyes flashed. Don't talk nonsense. Jiang Xinyu accidentally found a spiritual herb and consumed it, so she reached the grain-fasting realm. What does that have to do with me? You're lying. Jiang Xinyu gritted her teeth, her eyes red. It's the 9-star pill. You gave the 9-star pill that father gave you to this bitch, right? Jiang Hofei, I am your sister. This bitch is just your slave, your concubine. You actually gave her the precious 9-star pill. Jiang Xinyu's words made Lu Ruoxuan nervous immediately. Especially when the surrounding people, who had originally sympathized with Lu Ruoxuan, heard that she was only a slave and concubine, they all looked at her with disdain. Lu Ruoxuan's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Jiang Hofei with hope and pleading. Her heartbroken appearance and sparkling tears melted Jiang Hofei's heart. He only hesitated for a moment before he spoke in a serious tone, Xinu, don't speak nonsense. Ro is our junior sister from the same sect and is even father's closed-door disciple. How can you accuse her of being my slave and concubine just because you hate her? Even if I really want to marry San, in the future, I will definitely have to carry a sedan chair and marry her openly. Hearing this, Lu Ruoxuan immediately revealed a brilliant smile and looked at Jiang Hofei with gratitude. Jiang Xinyu, on the other hand, was furious. The veins on her hand that was holding the whip were bulging. She suddenly shouted angrily and lashed the whip in her hand towards Lu Ruoxuan. Bitch, it's all because of you. Speak, what kind of foxy tricks did you use to make my brother fall head over heels for you? I'm going to skin you alive, I'm going to skin you alive. This time, it was as if Jiang Xinyu had really gone crazy. She pounced on Lu Ruoxuan without a care for anything else. Chapter 1156. So much so that she could only flee from Jiang Xinyu's whip, wailing incessantly. Jiang Hofei wanted to rush over to stop her, but was held back by his fellow disciples. Senior Jiang, just let Xinyu vent her anger, otherwise if she reports to Master, junior sister Xian will suffer even more. That's right, junior sister Xinyu is used to being domineering. If you go and stop her, who knows how junior martial sister Xian will be tortured by her in the future. Almost every male cultivator of the mountain-breaking sect doted on Lu Ruoxuan. They felt that she was the most innocent and kind of pitiful person. All the bad rumors were because she was framed. But the female cultivators of the mountain-breaking sect hated Lu Ruoxuan very much. Seeing Jiang Xinyu hit her, some even clapped and cheered. Jiang Xinyu's whip was too ruthless, to the point that even Lu Ruoxuan, who was used to hurting herself, couldn't bear it. Her flesh was cut open by the barbs on the whip. It was too painful, really too painful. Suddenly, Lu Ruoxuan's gaze swept over to Mu Yan. Her eyes flashed, and she suddenly pounced towards Mu Yan with a face full of surprise. Mu Yan, Jun Mu Yan, why are you here? It's so good to see you again. At this time, Jiang Xinyu's whip came over. Lu Ruoxuan screamed, and suddenly pounced to hide beside Mu Yan, crying, Mu Yan, save me, slut, today I want to see if anyone can save you. Jiang Xinyu's face twisted, the whip in her hand was about to come over again, but she suddenly saw Mu Yan's beautiful face. It's you. Jiang Xinyu's voice suddenly rose, there was anger, hatred, and a trace of fear in her tone. Why are you here? Mu Yan didn't care about Jiang Xinyu's question, and slowly pulled out the arm that Lu Ruoxuan was holding. Luo Yu immediately came forward, patting her clothes with a look of disgust. Sixth sister, this clothes are dirty, throw it away and change it. Lu Ruoxuan's face stiffened. Jiang Xinyu couldn't bear the disregard anymore, and screamed, "You want to protect Lu Ruoxuan?" Sure enough, bitches and bitches like to travel together. This time, all my fellow disciples are here. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. Mu Yan raises her eyebrows. This Jiang Xinyu really hasn't received enough of a lesson. Luo Yu said unhappily, "I don't like to hear this. If you want to call Lu Ruomin a slut, then go ahead. Why bring my 6th senior sister into this? You have fellow disciples, don't tell me we don't have any. You dare to bully our 6th senior sister? Do you believe that I won't strip all of you naked and leave behind a portrait?" When Jiang Xinyu heard Luo Yu say that she had stripped everyone naked, she unconsciously recalled her miserable state in the Mirror Moon Mountains. Meeting Mayan's eyes that seem to be smiling yet not smiling, she quivers and shivers. Then, her brain processed Luo Yu's words. Looking at Mayan and Luo Yu's distant expressions towards Lu Ruoxuan, she asked suspiciously, "Are you really not in cahoots with this slut?" Chapter 1157. Jiang Xinyu was originally filled with resentment towards Mu Yan's group. When she heard hearing Leng Yuma's words, she only felt comfortable all over. She wished she could make Leng Yuma her confidant. She was disgusted by Lu Ruoxuan's usual behavior. But the fellow apprentices around her, including her brother, were all deceived by this woman's appearance. Even if they didn't dare to say it out loud due to their status. However, he secretly felt pity for that bitch, Lu Ruoxuan. Instead, he treated her coldly. In particular, when Lu Ruoxuan was in power, she instigated discord in front of her brother and father, causing her to receive a punishment that was neither too big nor too small. Jiang Xinyu hated her to the bone. But it was clear that this slut had done such a big mistake, but her father and brother still tolerated her. Even her fellow apprentices felt that she was wronged. Thinking of this, Jiang Xinyu gritted her teeth. She raised the whip in her hand again and ruthlessly lashed it towards Lu Ruoxuan. This time, she aimed directly at Lu Ruoxuan's face. Lu Ruoxuan screamed and rushed towards Mu Yan, crying, "Mu Yan, we have gone through trials and tribulations together, and also experienced the sex selection together. Can you save me? I know you're a kind-hearted person. You won't just stand by and watch me get beaten up, will you?" At this time, Jiang Xinyu lashed out with the whip again. Lu Ruoxuan had already arrived in front of Mu Yan. When the whip came, she dodged it. This dodging naturally exposed Mu Yan, who was in front of her. If this whip were to land, Mayan's face would probably be drenched in blood. If Jiang Xinyu saw someone else, she might stop. It was obvious that the person she wanted to hit was Mu Yan. But not only did she not stop, she increased the strength of her hand. She still clearly remembered how Mu Yan stripped her clothes in the Mirror Moon Mountain range, made her incontinence, and let her be bitten by insects and ants. "Junior sister, be careful." The people of the Xiaoyao sect exclaimed, wanting to rush over to help. But it was too late. There was no trace of panic on Mu Yan's face. She turned her wrist, and the Tian Mo Qin appeared in her hand. The whip that was originally aimed at her face was instantly changed direction. "Paw!" A loud sound. It was followed by Lu Ruoxuan's mournful scream, "Oh! My face, my face!" She put down her hand, but there was a wound on her face that was so deep that the bone could be seen. As for the whip that flew back to Jiang Xinyu's hand, the barb even had the flesh of Lu Ruoxuan's face on it. Jiang Xinyu looked at Lu Ruoxuan's pure and delicate face, which was instantly covered with blood and looked like a ferocious ghost. She immediately burst into laughter. "Bitch, let's see how you can seduce men with this face." Lu Ruoxuan frantically took out healing talismans and burned several of them in a row. Only then did the bloodstains on her face heal. But when his fingers touched it, a mottled scar appeared on the originally smooth and exquisite skin. Lu Ruoxuan felt her head explode, wishing she could die immediately. Chapter 1158. Lu Ruoxuan's voice is too mournful, and coupled with her miserable appearance from being chased and beaten by Jiang Xinyu, many people sympathize with her. There are even people pointing fingers at Mayan. Jiang Hofei fiercely rushes forward like an arrow, pulling Lu Ruoxuan into his arms and glaring at Mayan. Jun Mayan, you're going too far. I often hear Chuaner mention that she worships you and treats you as a good friend. I didn't expect you to treat her like this. You look as beautiful as a flower, but you have a heart of a snake and scorpion. Lu Ruoxuan holds on to Jiang Hofei's sleeve and sobs, Hofeigij, don't say any more. Chuaner only blames herself for trusting the wrong person. I thought that even if Miss June and my senior sister had a grudge, we still have a friendship of going through trials and tribulations together, and also participating in the sect selection together. I thought that she would at least save me, but I didn't expect that she would actually ruin my face. Boo-hoo-hoo, what did I do wrong? Why did she treat me like that? Jiang Hofei's heart aches from hearing her sorrowful cries, and he comforts her again and again. The surrounding people's accusations against Mayan become louder and louder. This little girl's appearance is devastatingly beautiful, but I didn't expect her to have a heart of stone. She would actually watch a weak woman die without saving her. That's right, not to mention that they're old acquaintances. Not only did she not save her, she even ruined someone else's face. Listening to Jiang Hofei's accusations and the surrounding people's discussions, Luo Yu and the others are simply about to explode. Don't slander her. It was obviously this woman who wanted to use the whip to whip my 6th senior sister. My 6th senior sister fought back and the whip landed on her face. She only has herself to blame. What does this have to do with my 6th senior sister? Mayan pulls the thunderous Luo Yu and Len Yuma, and slowly walks to Lu Ruoxuan. The accusations against Mayan become louder and louder, more and more unpleasant. When they fall into Lu Ruoxuan's ears, a smile flashes in her eyes, but when she looks up again, there's only sadness and grievance. Mayan, I've always worshipped you, and wanted to be friends with you. I can forget about what you've done in the past. Can you not harm me in the future? Liao, how could you be so stupid? Jiang Hofei said in exasperation. This woman is so vicious, how could she not harm you? Jean, you should stay away from her in the future. No, it's not like that. Lu Ruoxuan has a stubborn and expectant look as she shakes her head. I know that Mu Yan is not such a person, and she did not deliberately harm me. I really want to bury the hatchet between us. Mayan, promise me, okay? Saying that, she stretches out her hand and looks at Mu Yan expectantly. Her eyes are clear and bright, just like the most innocent deer. The people around her were all moved by her beauty and kindness. They asked one after another, which sect was she from? In this deceitful world of cultivation, such a beautiful and pure person was already too few and far between. Mu Yan slowly crouches down and looks at Lu Ruoxuan's outstretched hand. The corner of her mouth hooks up into a smile that isn't a smile. First, I'm not familiar with you, so don't call me Mayan. Just hearing it makes me want to vomit last night's dinner. Hearing that, Lu Ruoxuan's face stiffens. Mayan, you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.